I'm going to just touch upon a couple of questions that people made, comments and questions people made. Here's the first one. Fellow says, 2D is conceptual only? Why? Okay, and the answer is because 2D, take a square, take a circle, whatever, any plane that you want, triangle, right? It doesn't exist. And so it's an object. It's an object by definition because it has shape. Square has shape, circle has shape, triangle has shape, they have shape. But they don't exist, so they don't have location. And that's what's missing in that. So the only way you can only imagine them. You can draw them. Even when you draw them, the square, is an object. But keep in mind what you have on paper is just ink and pen, ink and paper. That's all you have on the paper. But you can't make, a square out here, right? Or a circle, triangle. So in that sense, I'm saying it's conceptual. It's an object, yeah, but you can only imagine it. You cannot really produce it.
There's no such thing as a circle.
And because even if you want to produce it, what are you going to produce it of? Atoms, and atoms are already quite thick. Okay, so thicker than flat.
Quite thick. I'd say they're quite thin.
No, atoms are very thick compared to flatness.
Oh, okay.
To plane.
Compared to a plane.
Right. And here you have, just in case, you have to factor this in with it. Okay. Here you have the circle. Okay, and the circle goes down, right? And you can't see it sideways because right now you're not having a circle. What you're having is an oval. Elliptical thing there of some kind. Once you turn it sideways or back to front or whatever, any movement that you give it, you distort it, and it's no longer a circle. You can't call that thing a circle. It stopped being a circle. And sideways completely, it should disappear because it has no thickness. And here, the same thing for the square. Okay, you see it there. So you can't really turn these things sideways first because they stop being a square or a circle, triangle or whatever, and second because if sideways you can't see them and it wouldn't make any sense. And we're going to bring that up again when we talk about now with the infinite universe, whether it's a plane, right?
Oh, I wasn't listening. I was reading the comments. I'm trying to understand. Sometimes what people write.
Okay, here's another fella who talks about what? He says, what a crackpot. He's referring to me. Okay.
Yep.
Try explaining empirical.
Right.
Try explaining the empirical evidence. Empirical evidence. He's talking about experiments and the fact that I'm going to convince you, so I'm going to present evidence, I'm going to persuade and try to convince you and try to change your mind. And he thinks that's part of science. Changing minds.
I think a lot of people think that's part of science. I wouldn't blame them.
That's where the problem is.
Yeah.
And he says, like the expansion, CMB, the background radiation, right? GR has been validated. He wants validation. He wants someone to go out there, do an experiment, prove it to him, validate it to him, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand that he's the guy who it's been validated to, not to me.
Well, he's talking about convincing.
Yeah, and then he talks about GPS. GPS is technology, has nothing to do with science. Okay? And, does GPS prove that gravity warps time?
To whom?
Right,
to whom does it prove? That's why I love the word. Whenever anyone says prove, it's been proven, always follow it up with to whom.
Yeah.
To whom is it proven? And you sound like a conspiracy theorist or a crazy person, but that's just logical English. That's a normal way of talking. You can't just say, it's been proven.
And then he talks about evidence,
It's been proven is like saying it's been stabbed. Who's been stabbed?
Right. It's been
what? It's been said. By whom?
Right.
Who said it?
Okay, and here we have another fellow. He defends Ayn Rand. Some call him, I call her Ayn. Okay. Says the YouTube video exists independently of me. The fact that it exists implies what? That I can perceive it and that I exist possessing consciousness. Perception and consciousness have absolutely nothing to do with exist. But that's what this fellow believes. This is what he proceeds with. This is what he's got in the back of his mind. And so he's going to defend that. Perception and consciousness, which have nothing at all to do with existence. And he talks about the theory of concepts and schools of thought of concepts. The objectivist position is concepts are what? The products of a cognitive method of classification whose processes must be performed by man. In other words, he puts man as the center, the observer, right, of the whole thing, but whose content are dictated by reality.
Oh, you're going to have to simplify that. What does that mean?
I don't know. I have no idea what all that means, and we don't care because it's very simple. And here we have Ayn Rand's words, her own words. Okay,
wait,
so
why'd you put it if we're not going to dissect it?
Huh?
Why'd you put it up if we're not going to dissect it?
Because I'm going to dissect whom he referenced, which is Ayn Rand. Okay, that's why it's better to dissect her.
Okay.
And she says, "What is to exist? Exist is to be something." Well, okay, that's a starting point. Okay, it's not completely true, but it's a good starting point. It's got to be something. And the question, what is something? I mean, can we say that motion is something? Because motion is a noun in ordinary speech. You could say it's something, right? Even nothing is something to some people. And they say, oh, that's something. So the question is, exists is to be something is not very clear yet, right?
Yeah.
To be an entity of a specific nature made of specific attributes. So she's going to go into what an entity is. She says things, in other words, entities, right? So she says things and entities are synonym. We agree there. But then she says, what is entity? Sight and touch. And that's what it's always been to everybody out there. Everybody thinks that a thing, right? Anything, something, entity, figure, object, all these words are synonyms. What is it? Sight and touch. That's how we determine it. She's talking about perception. That's what this fellow was talking about. This is where he got it all from. And then she says, existence exists. Whatever that means. That's good for poetry. It serves no purpose in the science of existence, which is physics. In physics, we don't say existence exists. No, existence is a concept, so you can't say that a concept exists. And then something exists, which one, what? Perceives. Yeah. So Ayn Rand had no idea what the word exist means or what a thing is, an entity is.
Well, she had an idea, but it was a faulty one.
And there I have the perfect example. The quadriplegic who can't see. Okay, so he has no touch, he has no sight. Does the moon exist for him? Does the chair exist? He can't touch it or see it. So does that mean the chair, or the chair he's sitting in, it doesn't exist because he can't feel it, he can't see it? So no, see and touch are not our irrational criteria to define exist. And obviously she didn't know what an entity is because she referenced it to perception, to consciousness. And that's why I know Ayn Rand never figured it out. Like no other so-called philosopher, Wittgenstein, Hume, even all the way to Plato, none of them figured it out.
I think people have made that mistake for, like you said, millennia,
Oh,
where they equate reality. Some people, I was even watching videos yesterday where they straight up say, yeah, reality is subjective. They say it as such.
Right.
Like, and because
so if I'm high on drugs,
it's one of those if the tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it kind of things. I don't know why it's so hard to conceptualize that the universe goes on without anyone watching it.
Right, and the question is, was there sound? Sound is, so you have to define these words.
Yeah,
say, okay, what is sound? Sound is rarefaction and compression of air, right?
So when the tree falls, it does that.
If it happened, it happened.
Matter
Whether you heard it or not, whether the deaf man heard it.
Exactly.
Or the blind man saw it.
It's not that hard. But
so what do we do in science? Well, we define exist so that we don't have any problems. We say exist, physical presence. What does that mean? Physical means object. There has to be an object. And good old Ayn Rand had it right there. What she forgot is location. She never figured location out. You need location. It's got nothing to do with perception. As you can see, there's no provision in there for belief or knowledge or perception or any other things that people usually introduce there. You do not need to touch. You do not need to see. Obviously, if the Klingon on the other side of the universe has a chair, I can't see it or touch it. But does that mean the word chair does not refer to an object?
Can I ask something
Yeah,
about this one?
sure.
So we have physical presence. That
Yeah.
means there are many things in the universe that we cannot see or touch.
Yeah.
There are many things that exist that we do not know of, or we cannot know of because they're just too far, they're too silent, they're too quiet.
The rope.
For example, there's a lot of things that we cannot discern the existence of.
Right.
That's what you're...
Yeah, in other words, see and touch are poor examples or
Poor
poor
criteria.
criteria. I can't see or touch the chair that the Chinaman has on the other side of the planet. So he's got a chair, right? He's sitting on it. Does the word chair refer to an object? That's the only question, right? Did I see it? Did I touch it? No. And does that mean he's not sitting on a chair because on an object? Because I can't see or touch it?
But then they take also that step further where they say seeability, touchability. Well, now they're trying to skirt the question.
But that means I have to run an experiment.
Yeah.
That means before the asteroid hits the moon, so far the moon hasn't seen it. So far they haven't touched each other. Is an asteroid an object before we run the experiment or the observation?
It's touchable.
Yeah, it's
That means
touchable.
you already
I don't know
ran
if it's touchable.
When you say touchable, that means you quickly ran an experiment in your mind that you can touch it.
No, you went into the future.
Yeah.
Hey, no experiments necessary to define words, okay? And the only thing I want to add there, you have all these irrational statements, some made by theists, others by atheists, and the other ones by agnostics. One fellow says, I know that God exists. The other guy says, I don't believe that God exists. And the last one says, I don't know whether God exists or not.
But those are fine statements. Because
No, those are irrational statements.
Those are fine statements because
No,
because they're not sure if he has location.
No, that's not the issue.
Yeah.
No, that's not the issue.
I can say I don't know if Wookiees exist.
Yeah, but the issue is that in the definition of exist, there's no provision for knowledge or belief.
That's not the point, but you can still use the word exist.
No, you can't.
I know that God exists still works with that definition of physical presence.
No, how so?
Because God may have physical presence or may not. I just don't know it.
But you need what you're saying is that your knowledge has something to do with God's existence.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying whether he exists or not, whether he has location or not, or is physical or not, I don't know.
No, you have to tell me. You can't say, I don't know. You're the guy proposing God.
No, I don't know. Say, I'm a dumbass. I don't know if God exists. I don't know if he's physical or has location.
See,
depends. It really depends on how you define God, isn't it? It goes back to that one because some people say he's a spirit, some people say he's an old man with a wand.
But the presenter, the person giving you the dissertation, the lecture, that's the person who has to tell the crowd.
Yeah. God is.
Yeah, what it is to him, what he's going to present. And he can't say, he can't begin his presentation by saying, I believe God exists, or I know God exists. No, you can't begin like that. You said, let us assume God exists.
I guess you could say.
Then you can continue, and then I'll concede your assumption because I'm going to try to understand your theory. So I concede the assumption at face value. It doesn't mean I'm going to believe in it. I don't need belief in that whole situation. It's just an assumption.